So you see a lot of this still percolating beneath the surface, right? The reopening the questions that we thought were closed,
Yes.
the trade-off between independence and comfort being a treaty and a bargain that no longer holds. There's a new equilibrium,
Yes.
a disequilibrium at least coming in
But
Europe.
but people are going to have to relearn to be peasants, basically.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. What do you mean by that?
I mean that, you know, during this period of bartering away independence for comfort, people were encouraged to, like listen to these new schemes. It's like, oh, here's green energy. It's like it's gonna seem like your energy is costing more, but it's not really gonna cost more because if you blah blah blah. And people were like looking and trying to figure out what's going which way. And eventually, I think that they've sort of developed the sense that they've been had. And
Mm,
so voters are developing the psychology that peasants had in like 19th century novels by Balzac. Someone walks up to your door and says, "Look, I'll offer you $10 million for your farm." It's like, nope,
mhm,
nope, I'm not going to listen to you. For me to get
mhm.
engaged in a sort of like conversation with you, even if you're being nice to me, even if what you are offering me seems good to me, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to
Mhm.
say nope. And that's what a that's and that's and so I think that it's an interesting thing in this country. You look at these two huge debates we've had in which in each of them, one side seems to have drubbed the other, and yet they had
Right.
no effect on the polls or anything. There's nothing. It's like people have stopped listening, and that's a sign of something, I think.
What do you think it is a sign of?
Well, I think it's a sign of peasantization,
Mhm.
of like people have been kind of like led down the garden path too many times, and they're just not going to. They're going to vote as they see fit. They're not going to listen to a plan or a project of any kind, because it's either not going to happen or it's going to happen for someone else's benefit.
I think that this bargain in the United States is one where, I mean, this is deep stuff. I think for the future of even the conservative movement and what direction we take, are we actually willing to say to the voter, you've been screwed by the nanny state arrangement, and then that involves taking some of the cocaine away. For I mean, to use that as an analogy or whatever, right?
Yeah,
You take the coke away from the coke addict, but that actually gives you your autonomy back. And that part of that's really part of the dignity of the individual that we've traded off. And people feel that sense of the loss of dignity. But we have a conservative movement, and I'm not talking about just, the old right or whatever. I'm talking about even in some ways, the one of the reluctances of the so-called new right is actually to take real serious aim at a lot of those nanny state entitlements that were part of the barter transaction that you described, the deal with the devil.
yeah.
That I think that's the real question for the future of the conservative movement is, do we just sort of reconstitute the devil a little bit that made the trade, and make sure it's one that actually respects the peasants, as you put it, and with shared values that align with conservative principles? Or do we actually say, no, the arrangement was in some ways a sham arrangement from the start, and we have to undo the whole thing
Yeah.
and dismantle the nanny state, even if that comes with some discomfort, some pleading from, like you say, coke addict, you take the coke away, the first reaction is not going to be great, but it's what needs to be done for his own betterment in the long run.